Hey everyone, finished watching the next Power Rangers Dino Thunder episode, Isn't It Lovely? So, summary, Mesagog now considers Zeltrax out of control and untrustworthy. He sends the White Ranger clone after him. At school, Devin tells Cassidy that he has something to do, and Cassidy feels lonely and lost without her friend. Tommy drives out to the forest to find Zeltrax, and that goes nowhere. At school, the kids are learning about volcanoes, which gives Elsa an idea. She kidnaps a teacher and turns them into a monster. Ethan is very popular after breaking a high score at a video game, and the others think it's going to his head. The White Ranger clone attacks Connor and Kira, and Zeltrax joins in against all of them. Zeltrax grows weak and vanishes, and the clone leaves. The Rangers fill Dr. Owen on what's going on, then go to battle the new monster. It causes a volcano to erupt. Cassidy, meanwhile, is lost without Devin, and doesn't even notice the volcanic activity all around her. Tommy joins the Rangers, and with his help and Connor's battleizer, they defeat the monster. Elsa makes it grow, and the Rangers call the Zords. Tommy summons a tidal wave, I guess that's a thing he can do, to cool down the volcano, and the Rangers surf on it to destroy the monster. The Rangers find the kidnapped teacher wandering around disoriented afterwards. At Haley's cyberspace, Ethan takes part in a video game competition, and his opponent is Devin. To Ethan's shock, Devin wins. Cassidy yells at Devin that she can't believe this is what he left her for, but he can't hear her over the crowd cheering for him. This episode's okay. Nothing stand out, but it's not awful, and everything makes sense for the most part. The White Ranger clone loses to Zeltrax. That's embarrassing. I'm also starting to see why the clone is usually forgotten when people discuss the villains of Dino Thunder. Like, I'll constantly see people talk about the villains of Dino Thunder being some of their favorite villains, and they'll talk about Mesagog and Elsa and Zeltrax, and then no mention of the White Ranger clone, even though I think at this point in the series he's had more appearances than Trent. Trent's in this episode, but he never morphs. The White Ranger clone has no personality. He's about as basic as a villain can be. He has no ambition or motivation outside of what Mesagog tells him to do. That may make sense for Mesagog, but it makes for a pretty boring character in a show. I like Cassidy and Devin's story here, and I wonder if it'll be followed up on. Cassidy's pretty mad at him at the end, and there's no reconciliation between the two. I don't know why the scene of Tommy going to look for Zeltrax was necessary. He doesn't find Zeltrax. It's seemingly just here to explain why there's another science teacher there for Elsa to kidnap. I think the story could have been streamlined by making the science teacher a friend of Tommy's, that he brings in specifically because he's an expert on volcanoes. This would erase the need for Tommy to leave for a contrived reason, and it would also give some stakes to the battle. They're not just fighting a random monster, but a friend of a main character. As it is, the Rangers are completely unaware that the monster is a transformed human. Also, this would eliminate this kind of redundant thing of, at the beginning, Tommy is at the school teaching the kids about volcanoes, only for another teacher to come in and teach them about volcanoes. Elsa's kidnapping plot oddly goes unnoticed by anyone. I feel like that maybe should have gotten more of a focus rather than Ethan's video game thing. The video game competition, by the way, isn't a bad story, but it's just something going on. I like the twist that Devin is Ethan's opponent and that this is what he was leaving Cassidy to do. What comes off a tiny bit weaker is the lesson that Ethan learns about practice and determination. Ethan is convinced that no one can beat his high scores, and so he's slacking off from practicing. It's an okay lesson, but it works well enough. It's just strange to have a civilian plot with zero connection to anything else going on in the episode. Usually there's at least some shoehorning in of some element to at least give the impression of being connected. The only connection it has is Cassidy and Devin's thing, but they're completely separate from the superhero side of things, too. In a way, I respect the direction they took here. The Rangers have their own lives going on that are occasionally interrupted by goofy monsters. The last thing I want to talk about is the Triptoids. The Triptoids make another appearance. The Tyrannodrones show up as well, and I don't understand why they're kept separate. Maybe the Tyrannodrones are natural enemies of the Triptoids? I don't really get any reason why the foot soldiers are kept separate from each other. Earlier on, when I was rewatching Game On, where the Triptoids first make their appearance, there's the end of the episode, Zeltrax shows up with the Triptoids, And so I was like, oh, okay, so Zeltrax has some kind of control over the Triptoids. And I kind of sort of remembered this thing later on where he breaks away from the villains, so I was thinking that Zeltrax is going to have the Triptoids as his foot soldiers, while the Tyranodrones are Mesogog's foot soldiers. But they didn't do that. So I don't know what the point is of holding back on them, and whatever. It's an okay episode, not a whole lot to say. So that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.
Let me guess. He kicked your butt.
Loser! You're a loser!